Hello, I'm Tony Davis, the Reform Operations Manager for the South East region of Her Majesty's Courts and Tribunal Service, and I've also been leading a project on storage across the region. When Reform first announced the estate's rationalisation programme, it became clear to us that not only were we going to lose hearing space, but we would also need an additional amount of storage space. We started a survey of our estate at that time, asking all our courts to check what the linear meterage was they had in store and how much storage space they had spare per linear metre. Following on from that, we started looking at courts in every nook and cranny to see if there were extra places that we could store. The whole thing came to a head with the closure of the Maidenhead Court and the amount of paperwork, files and registers that needed to be moved from there. This video attempts to show you some of the issues that we came across during the process and also our solution to the problem. During the video, we'll be visiting Maidenhead, where Lynn Storey will tell you the story of Maidenhead, and then we'll pay a visit to the new storage hub at Great Yarmouth. I hope you'll find something in this video that shows you how much effort we've put into solving our future storage problems.
I inherited Maidenhead Magistrates Court just before the closure was announced. The storage centre here was set up some years ago and was used by various clusters across the region and of course Thames Valley. The original idea was that all those with storage would sift and housekeep their own files. Regrettably, conflicting priorities meant that this slipped to the bottom of the pile. We cleared 20 rooms here full of roller racking. Some files had been subject to flooding from the leaking roof and they were less than pleasant to deal with. Once the court was set up for closure, the arduous task of removing everything began. All those with files visited and sifted them, and we removed many tons of confidential waste. Files were sorted into those for long-term archiving, and plans were made for their removal. During the clearance, Tony became involved and saw the potential to move the roller racking and create a regional storage hub. The need to provide ongoing storage was highlighted when Thames Valley also became aware that files, papers and registers were being stored off-site at an old United States Air Force base in Oxfordshire. Inquiries with the company highlighted that this storage was being poorly managed and data was put at risk, in addition to costing £20,000 a year. This appeared to be a contract entered into by the old Magistrates Court Committee in 2000. At this stage, we decided we needed to bring it back in-house. We're currently finalising details for its return. It's taken some time because the contractors were not helpful in assisting with terminating the contract. The room I'm in now, in Maidenhead, was the largest roller racked room, and everything in here and the other rooms has either been relocated within Thames Valley or to the new hub at Great Yarmouth.
You'll remember earlier in the video I mentioned that we were doing a survey across the region looking for nooks and crannies in which to store our files and paperwork. That survey led me to Great Yarmouth, and whilst I was going around the main building looking for those nooks and crannies, Michelle Cohn, the customer services manager, happened to mention to me that there was an unused building in the car park. It used to be the old probation suite. So I thought, well, let's have a look at that. So we came over. The place was in disrepair, really. There were ceiling tiles hanging down, there were cobwebs everywhere, and the place was just generally filthy. It was also extremely cold and damp because the central heating had packed up and was going to cost somewhere between 80 and 120,000 to fix. So it became apparent that we weren't going to be able to fix the central heating, so we had to decide if we were going to use the place, what we would do to put heating in to make sure that we could keep paperwork dry and that the damp wouldn't get to it. Eventually it was decided we would go ahead with the Great Yarmouth site, and we installed ambient heating to make sure that we kept the damp at bay. All of the roller racking that you see around me in this room and in 5 other rooms came from Maidenhead, so we've actually recycled the Maidenhead racking to Great Yarmouth. We've done an enormous amount of work already here, and it's still work in progress, but the place is looking much cleaner and a much nicer environment now. I'm joined now by Michelle Cohn, the Customer Services Manager from Yarmouth Magistrates Court, and it's a bit different now than it was a few weeks ago, isn't it, Michelle?
It certainly is, certainly a lot cleaner, if nothing else, so yeah.
And of course we've got all that racking in downstairs, and you were really helpful during the transition because you supervised that racking going in, and I believe you've had staff sort of working with you to sort out paperwork that came from Maidenhead.
Yeah, we were lucky to source overtime hours, which we've been lucky to continue with those hours. And we've had staff in every weekend since sort of the beginning of July. The main priority obviously was to unload those crates and get everything into some sort of order and get the files onto the roller racking. Our next part of that is to look at the GDPR side of things, and we're now weeding through those files, so anything that doesn't need to be kept can be disposed of.
And I think as well we've had great support from the cluster manager, Rachel Goodall.
Yeah, definitely.
Who's been happy to provide skips for the building to be cleared and for cleaners.
Yeah, we've had the cleaners in, and obviously, as you've said, they've made a brilliant job of making the place a lot more habitable, really, for staff to work in. The skip has now been filled, so a lot of the furniture has been disposed of that could be. We've still got a couple of rooms full of furniture, but that's good furniture that we're hoping we might be able to utilise elsewhere.
Fine. And I think that at the moment you've been helping out the Beds, Herts and Cambridge cluster by retrieving paperwork for them on an infrequent basis at the moment.
Yes, funnily enough, I've got a file to send over to Luton County Court today, a bankruptcy file that they've asked us to fill out. So,
okay.
Yeah.
And has that been too taxing really at the moment?
Not really, but if I'm not in the office and somebody sends the request to me, it could be like a week goes by before I can do that. But
so it's going to be really, really helpful for us to lay down criteria for what goes in here and what doesn't, because you don't want to be running in and out here every day of the week finding stuff.
Yeah, especially if it's bankruptcy files aren't too bad because they're in a good order, but family files are a little bit of a mess, to be fair. So partly because of how they were loaded and sent over, but also now we're trying to sort them out. They're not, they're not in a strict sort of numerical order.
So, as the project sort of comes to an end almost, so that it becomes business as usual, do you think this has been a really successful use of this building?
Oh, definitely, because I've always thought it's such a waste. It's a nice building. It's got a lot of office space and a lot of potential. So just to use, part of it is a definite advantage for the cluster. Definitely.
Thank you very much for all your
Thank
help
you.
with this project.
Thank you.
So that's it. That's the South East Region's storage project. We were lucky, I think, that at the same time as we started out on this project, we had the GDPR project come along as well. So we've been able to, on a regional basis, keep a good check on our storage needs and what we're holding, what we're not holding, and where everything's stored. So we think we're in pretty good shape for complying with GDPR across the region. And we're now, with the Great Yarmouth Storage Hub, in a situation where we can offer either temporary storage for people during court moves and court closures, or we can offer full storage facilities where they can put papers that don't need to be accessed on a regular basis. I hope you found something interesting in this video, and I hope that you think that the efforts that we've put into creating this storage hub have been worthwhile.